the type of, outside the gym cardiovascular activity that seems to work really well is really high intensity sprinting. And what I mean by this, and I'm sure you can attest to this uh, type of conditioning, you go all out. You give literally everything that you possibly can give. You wring yourself like a towel. Air bike, Prowler are wonderful. Spin bike's really good. If you have good enough form, then the erg is great. And you only need to do like 2, 3, 4 rounds of this. It really doesn't have to be very much. Go into this, you know, energized, meaning you're not hungry, you're not depleting yourself. The goal is to go full effort. Fuel yourself with some carbohydrates. Fuel yourself with a little bit of protein to make your muscles feel safe that you can actually show up and like give it when you're doing this. Don't go in there thinking like you need to burn 500 calories because you're just going to make that up somewhere else more likely. Nice barbell gyms now that don't have like Metallica on and chalk everywhere and guys running around slapping each other.
Welcome to the Health Fix podcast, where health junkies get their weekly fix of tips, tools, and techniques to have limitless energy, sharp minds, and fit physiques for life. Hey, health junkies. On this episode of the Health Fix podcast, I'm geeking out with Niki Sims, and we're talking about fitness, and in particular, fitness over 40. So we're talking about weightlifting. We're talking about this trend where everyone's talking about weights, but like no one's describing what moves the needle. Now, Niki is one of the co-founders of Barbell Logic, and that's barbell style of weightlifting. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, whoa, barbell, that's tough. Niki breaks it all down as to how using a barbell can actually help you with functional movements as you get older and help you to have strength for lifting up suitcases up in overhead compartments, squatting, things of that nature. We talk about body image as we get older. We talk about some fun stories in terms of really what cardio should be as we get older versus a punishment, and what just how you can change your thought process on fitness as you get older. And so Niki's all about teaching folks about how strength training can be your health 401k for your future. And really, she embodies it in this podcast, and we have a great time chatting. So if you're interested in fitness, you want to learn a thing or two about what really works, Niki knows what's up. All right, let's introduce you to Niki Sims. Niki Sims, welcome to the Health Fix podcast.
Hey, nice to be here, Dr. J.
We've been having such a fun conversation, seeing that I'm in Tacoma right now and she is up in Bellingham. So we've been like sharing vibes up the coast here.
Yes, much Pacific Northwesterning.
Yes. It's a good vibe. It's a good vibe and a good place. And so, always like to set off the vibe of the podcast and like, hey, how did you get into weightlifting? How did you get into advocating for women's health? Like, what brought you to this industry? And then feel free to tell us a little bit about how you got to Bellingham from California.
Okay. Well, probably a similar journey as most kind of fitness professionals end up doing, where I loved working out. And short story, I was able to turn my passion into a career, which I feel very lucky to be able to do. But it started out, I tried to play sports. That wasn't for me. Not very good running on the court, being on the team. Just that people are great at that wasn't for me. So I ended up at the gym. Just loved going to the gym. I would go to jazzercise with my mom. I would do step. I would do all the ab classes, but just like really couldn't wait to get to the gym every day, which is still how I am right now. I don't know if that's the case for you, but I just look forward to it every time I get to train. But it was always just, something that I did for fun. And so I went to school for construction management, got my degree in that industry, and I worked there for, I think it was 3 or 4 years. But then I got the CrossFit bite and, totally drank all the Kool-Aid. I was like, what'll be a good idea for me is to take a weekend seminar, quit my successful job, and open a gym. And so over the course of a couple of years, that's what I ended up doing. So opened up a CrossFit gym in New Mexico where I lived at the time. And it was fun. It was a great community, which is what CrossFit really does for, so many. I love the community aspect of it. But that's where I first really got you know, I got acquainted with the barbell. It became my best friend. And as I see many times in CrossFit, there are certain pathways where it's like, all right, you're really good at this. Why don't you be a professional CrossFitter and keep running a gym? Or you get hurt and you stop. That was another one. Or you become really interested in the strength component. So you go into powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting, strongman, and I really got into powerlifting. And then my career switched from a CrossFit coach to being a barbell coach. And so I moved to San Francisco, worked in a private gym there, moved to Atlanta, also worked in a private gym. And then we started Barbell Logic Online Coaching. The founder, Matt Reynolds, in 2016. And that's when I thought online coaching was going to be ridiculous. But we've been able to make it work. And we've been, learning how to run clients for many years of their life now, which has been really cool to see what it takes to work with a client for that amount of time because it's different. It changes. And it's been really neat to get to interact with people so frequently in their training, which was really hard to do as an in-person coach, but online we get to see them so often. So started off as gym rat turned construction manager turned CrossFitter to now I do client experience and online coaching.
Oh my goodness.
It's a fun journey.
It is a
Yeah.
fun journey. It is a fun journey. I mean, I definitely can totally see the trajectory for myself. Yes, gym rat. Yep, got into CrossFit. Yep, I was one of the ones that kept getting hurt, but I decided, okay, slow it down, go back to barbell, do some stuff that way. And so, yeah, it's a trajectory, right? And we know that, this isn't something
Yeah.
that everyone feel. So it's so much of a joy. And I'm sure you can agree that when you get someone, kind of sucked in and hooked, and then now they're the community that is around this. Because I was telling you actually before, I've been seeing people for about over 10 years here in Washington, and half of them are from my old gym over a decade
Oh, that's
ago.
neat.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Well,
it's
there's something
fun.
about being in that workout space together. You're pretty vulnerable and you're also pretty present. And when those two things are combined, you have no choice but to form some sort of bond. You get to see each other, really struggle, fail, and then really succeed. And I don't think that happens in such like a nurturing way in many places. So I can totally respect how your patients would want to be with you that for so long. That's cool.
It is fun. It is fun. Now, one of the things it's kind of saying is, the gym's not for everyone. And as we get
Hmm.
older, like everyone's touting, you got to do the weights, you got to get a little bit of strength training in. We're talking about get the protein in. But really, you have a statement that you had sent over to me about why strength training is like a health 401k for your future. And I really do think that this is something that is incredibly powerful because so many women will come into my practice that haven't been in the gym and their muscle, is
Hmm.
not built up. Yes, it takes a little work to get there, but at the same time, the difference between folks who are stronger versus folks who are not, in terms of having muscle, it health wise, it's a big difference. So give us a little background on your statement,
Hmm.
what you've seen, kind of why you're like, this is a good investment for women.
Hmm. Yeah. I think it's important to think of it like a slow, steady investment, like 401k, because it's something that doesn't feel important in your 20s, and yet that's the best time to get started. Same thing in your 30s. And really, it's true. Get started whenever you can. But it pays off when you really need it the most, which is when we don't produce as much estrogen, which is when we could be at higher risk for falls. We need to have a muscled body and we need to have strong bones. And that really matters as we start to age because if we don't go into 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s with strong bones and with muscle on our skeletons, we're at risk for losing our independence, but also at risk for becoming sicker, cardiovascular disease, and even, a fall at the later stage in life can actually be a death sentence. So if you lose your ability to, not even just enjoy life, but to just live on your own and move, you've you're missing out on some really potentially wonderful years. The years in our 50s and 60s when we're hopefully retiring, we're like, finally, I actually have time. And then crap, I can't move without hurting, you know? So it really is a slow, steady investment. You can't put your whole paycheck into it all the time. And that goes like training. You can't work at full capacity all the time because you get burnt out and you get hurt. And you've been lifting for so long, you know that it's something that you have to be able to do well and do something that's a challenge, but you have to be able to recover from it. And that means like you just go, you keep going. Sometimes you don't want to do it. Sometimes it's great, but you just keep doing it. And, then we get to really reap the benefits of it when we're, at a later point in life, which is, not even that old. It's like it's important in your 40s, which is young.
Well, the older I get, the younger folks older than me get. That's what I've decided. But one of the things, you know, I don't know if you've noticed this about, adventure and retirement and travel and whatnot. And maybe people haven't mentioned this. My biggest thing, I've traveled to a lot of third world countries, and a lot of the toilets are pit toilets, just like holes in the ground. I'm like,
Oh,
I need to be
yeah.
able to squat really good because,
Yeah.
got this kind of situation, some of the rural places that I would go to in Turkey, in particular, I was like horrified, right? But then I'm like, okay, I get over it.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I said to
That's
myself,
such a good example.
one of the big reasons, and I'm guessing you might have some folks that are like, yeah, public bathrooms. I need that
Hmm.
squat factor.
Getting on and off of like airplanes. And even, if you're going to be riding a bus, like, what are you going to do with your luggage? How are you going to get to your flight without needing to be there 3 hours in advance? Like little things that before you know it, you just get to enjoy fewer and fewer things if you're limited by your strength and mobility.
Yes, I mean, just lifting, how many times I see a woman ask on an airplane, "Can you help me lift my bag into the overhead compartment?" I'm like,
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
I'm like,
I
well,
know. I feel the same where I'm just like, I can help you. Yeah.
I can help you a lot, lady. You have no idea.
Yes.
Do people even give cards anymore? Like, here's my card. Um, so
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about like life fit because I think a lot of people hear barbell, they hear CrossFit, they hear powerlifting, and they're like, "Oh my,
Yeah.
I don't want to do that." I want to
Yeah.
squat over public toilets and I want to be able to lift my luggage up. So give us a little scoop on like life fit and kind of how you
Hmm.
folks in that department.
Hmm. Yeah. Being strong for life is like we've been talking about, it's putting on muscle. And powerlifters and bodybuilders, they do put on muscle and it's a very outward expression of that training that they do. But when you're just training to, make body composition changes or to feel really good in your own skin, you end up doing pretty similar movements because squat, bench press, deadlift, press, clean, those are things that your body really responds to well because we can progressively overload them, meaning, you start today with a 33-pound bar and then you do a squat there, you develop your form, you get to depth. And then the next time you come in, you go a little bit heavier. It might even only be 2.5 pounds heavier, but we're able to really meet you where you're at with your ability to get full range of motion, which is usually limited by strength. And we're able to just kind of invite your body to get stronger and stronger at the rate that works for you. And so those movements are great for powerlifting because they're huge demonstrations of strength, but they're great for someone who just needs to build muscle because we can go at the rate that really is right for everybody. And that really varies based on genetics, it's based on age, it's based on how stressful your life is.
Mhm.
So it's something that you can do in the gym. You can go to a good gym. There are so many nice barbell gyms now that don't have like Metallica on and chalk everywhere and guys running around slapping each other. Like those are fun, but it's not all of them now. Like they're really beautiful gyms now and there are actually a ton here in Washington where, they're beautifully arranged. The lighting is lovely. They're just really organized spaces and they have really good equipment and good coaches. Or you can do it from your house. Like setting up a barbell gym in your house is so accessible now. And then you can make that space a really lovely space to be in. I really love to see how people build out their home gyms and what they keep in there and how they organize it. And it's a really fun way to express yourself. So, barbell training, it teaches you how to work hard at whatever level you're at. You don't have to lift 200 pounds to equal strength. Like maybe 75 pounds is your strength right now, and that's fantastic. It's so much better than nothing.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Now, one of the questions I get a lot from folks about increasing strength and how much weight should I always get the how much weight should I be lifting? And is it okay if
Mm-hmm.
I just get to a point where I max out at like say 75 pounds and
Mm-hmm.
that I just stay at that? Can you do
Mm-hmm.
that? Is what I get from a lot of folks.
Right.
I'd love to hear your thought on like lifting more and more weight, or is there a point at which some people will just top out and that's where it is? And
Yeah. There's a phrase that comes up. We didn't write this in our like mission statement or anything, but over the time of coaching people, this phrase came up over and over again in many different ways. And people will say, that was hard but doable.
Mhm.
And that is basically the foundation of a good program. Is it's hard, but you did it, meaning your form was good and you're able to recover from it.
Mhm.
And if you stay at the same weight, it's not going to be hard enough anymore to drive progress. Even you can add reps, you might do 5 reps, then 6 reps, then 7 reps, then 8 reps, but you're still going to get to a point where that's not hard enough.
Mhm.
And so you have to make sure that the doable component is there and the hard component is there. And if you're tipping one scale too heavy, there's no progress and you're going to be maintaining probably something, you know, I'll say mediocre, but something that is not your full capacity. So I always go for hard but doable. That's kind of a good frame of reference.
I like that. I like that. Yeah,
Mhm.
because unfortunately what we see if, folks are going to say a big box gym where there may be like a group class or maybe like a YMCA kind of thing, we'll have a lot of folks that grab their like 5 pound dumbbells or 2 pound dumbbells and they just do the motions with this and then they'll come into my office
Yeah.
and say, why am I not gaining any strength? And so I would love for you to kind of like even further expand on the idea of hard but doable when it comes to doing
Yeah.
classes like that versus doing something a little bit
Yeah.
more with the barbells.
Yeah. And the class situation is a really good one because the instructors and the gym itself is going to be limited by how much time they can spend with each person, the equipment that they have available, and the need to keep the class entertaining. And a
Mhm.
good program is more individualized. It looks simple on paper, but it's actually more individualized. It's written for the person based on what they have available to them, time wise, mobility wise, equipment wise. And you can go at weights that are actually challenging for the person. And it doesn't need to be entertaining, it needs to work. And so those classes have limitations that are not driven by the lifter, they're driven by the class itself. And so when you go into something that's actually built for you, you have to do weights that are challenging. And you are so much stronger than you think you are right now. You have to go through this period of time where you start lifting and it's uncomfortable. You put a bar on your back and you squat, and it usually doesn't feel great. Or
Mhm.
doing a deadlift usually doesn't feel great. Lifting up overhead press is the ultimate ego killer. You lift up, 22 to 45 pounds over your head on the first day of pressing. You're just like, this is ridiculous. Why is this so hard? So you have to do these things that feel uncomfortable, but then it's usually like 4 weeks in, you really start to notice, like, man, I'm doing this so much better than I was 4 weeks ago. This is fun to see more weight get on the bar. And you learn that you can get stronger and get better. And if you don't challenge yourself by making the weight go up in the very beginning of lifting, you never know how capable you are. It gets more complicated as you progress in lifting. You've been lifting for such a long time. You can't just always keep adding 5 pounds to the bar, but you still have to find the hard part. And if you go to a class, you're not going to be able to find that because that's not what they're for.
Mhm.
It's maybe challenging and you may get sweaty and sore, but that's not what drives change in your body, and your muscles don't really care about that in a way that they're going to respond by adding more. It's like one analogy is well, there's that Milo and the bull. Like Milo, he started right Milo in the bowl. But he was like a young boy. He was like, I'm gonna carry my cow up a hill. But the
Yeah.
cow was growing, every week it got heavier and heavier, and he just kept carrying that thing up the hill. And so as they both grew, the bull got heavier and Milo got stronger because he kept being able to do more and more weight, and it called upon his body to get stronger. A
Yeah.
strength parable.
I I love it. I love it. I think
Yeah. What do you find works well in that? I'm curious what you find works well when you encourage people to get out of classes and start moving some weight.
You know, first and foremost, it's like get out and move your body weight. That's usually what I'll get people out of the classes and
Mm,
feel what a squat feels like. Because as you know, probably as well as I do, form is something very interesting sometimes. And so I'm guessing in a lot of your classes, you're making sure everybody's got their form down before they start loading with a barbell. And so first and foremost,
yeah.
I usually will start people out just moving. Let me see your squat. Let me see a deadlift. Let
Hmm.
me see, how you press overhead, and sometimes we'll get like one arm, it's mobility is
Yes.
such a thing. So from there, yes, then I will do the same thing, kind of then put the barbell on, then we put a 2.5 on, then we,
Hmm.
just kind of
Hmm.
gently go up from there. I, you know, I think for a lot of people, we do get in our heads about how much, and
Yeah.
once we know what the amount is on the barbell. And oftentimes when I was going for PRs, I would not have, I was like, don't tell me what's on the barbell.
Yes,
Because as soon
totally.
as I know, then I'm like, I can't lift that much. So I'm
Right.
curious, have you seen that with folks when you go to like trying to load things on the bar?
I had a really interesting moment last year. We did a little special on the Montel Williams show, and we like really quickly had to teach them how to lift. So his co-host Olga, we set her up with a light bar, it was like 10 pounds. And then we put bumper tens on either side. And so this was 42 pounds, but she wasn't able to pick it up at first. And she totally could. She's very athletic. But it looked so huge. Those bumper 10-pound plates, they look like what most people believe is 45 pounds. And
Mhm.
she was able to get it, very quickly. But it was really interesting that that looked like too much when in fact she's very strong, could totally pick that up. So you're exactly right. Like it might be, making them hold the 2.5 pound plate and being like, this is all I'm adding to your bar. See how light it is? Like you can do this, or not using the bumper 10-pound plates, or using the 22-pound bar and be like, this is how light it is on its own. But yeah, you do have to, there is this period of time where you kind of have to do some trickery in like a way of making us understand how capable you are, not just trying to like con someone into doing something, but to just like let your brain associate with like this is okay.
Right. Oh my gosh. I think that conning thing, I think we do have to talk about that because a lot of people have been hurt, by lifting more than they
Hmm.
handle. And definitely, guys, I'm not talking about
For
that. I
sure.
don't want anybody to lift anything more than they could handle. But for a lot of people, coaches that have been doing it for a while know like we can tell when you got more in the tank there. And you've got
Yes. Hmm. Yes.
so interesting, Montel Williams. How was that to be on that show? That had to have been very interesting
It
to
was really interesting. Like we had to do it really fast too. We had like 20 minutes on the set, and we were going to teach Montel how to do a box squat, and we are going to teach her how to do a deadlift. And we ended up doing it pretty quickly. We were able to talk about, exactly our conversation here about like you can do this. This is so available to you and you should do it. But yeah, it was a trip to meet him in person. Like that was like, wow, I've watched you on daytime television when I was at home from school sick.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I always wonder what it's like, when you meet people that, yeah, you've been watching for years on TV. I feel like it'd be so different to see them in
It
person.
was cool.
I,
Yeah, the behind the scenes was really interesting because, as soon as the camera goes on, it's like, we're so excited and everything's really fun. And then like the cameras go off and it's like a total gear shift.
oh my
It was
goodness.
fun.
I can
Yeah.
imagine. I can imagine. Now, a lot of people, we talk about weightlifting, right? And then we talk about cross training. We talk about, different
Hmm.
things that we could integrate in between. And of course, I see you've got some I always have to say BJJ because Brazilian
Same.
Jiu-Jitsu does not roll off the tongue.
It's a tongue twister.
It so is.
Tongue
And
jujitsu.
and a lot of women are getting into it, right? Like I see a lot of women who are,
Yeah,
I'm 46 and I see a lot of women in their 40s that are like, yo, this looks really cool. I see some other folks doing it. I want to be, I want to be a badass. I want to try this. And and a lot of people are using it as an in-between type of thing. Now, obviously, I understand that not everybody feels like rolling around on mats and things of that nature. And so
fair.
what would be something for someone like what do you think's the good mix between powerlifting and a kind of cardio, a kind of other training?
Hmm.
What's a good pair of sorts?
Yeah. I think when you're doing conditioning or cardio, you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this?
Hmm.
Am I doing this because I'm punishing myself for eating too many Oreos? Am I doing this because I think I need to burn the calories? Or am I doing this because someone told me this, 3K row is active recovery? Or am I doing this because I want to make my heart healthier and I need to challenge that whole part of my system? And when you get into the gear of understanding how, conditioning and cardio can be really beneficial to train versus as a punishment, that's different. I think there's also a type of cardio that is just really good for the brain. And it may not actually be the best thing for your body if we're talking about things that are optimal. Um, but if it's really wonderful for you to go on a longer run or a longer bike ride, for me, I really love going to spin class. It really doesn't help me at all for the muscular growth that I'm seeking,
Hmm.
but God, it's fun and I love the music and it is so worth it for me because it makes me happy. And that means it's worth it. So the type of, outside the gym cardiovascular activity that seems to work really well is really high intensity sprinting. And what I mean by this, and I'm sure you can attest to this uh, type of conditioning, you go all out. You give literally everything that you possibly can give. You wring yourself like a towel in terms of like how fast you can go. And I felt this the most in the most uncomfortable ways on Prowlers and the air bikes, Airdynes, the Rogue Echo bike. Like, oh my God, talk about wanting to die. But you get there really fast. And what I love about that is like if you want to go full effort, think a 100-meter sprinter. Like you need to give everything you have for a very short amount of time. Because if you go longer than that, you're not going full blast anymore. And so it's not as worth it. And it gets to be a little more, it can be like deteriorating instead of building.
Hmm.
So high intensity sprint, again, like air bike, Prowler are wonderful. Spin bike's really good. If you have good enough form, then the erg is great. Running tends to be a little much on people's joints, and this they're pretty adapted to it. But there's always the joke of a lifter who's like, I want to do sprints, and then they like instantly pull their handspring, hands hamstring. So ease into that one. But it's just like get to a point where you are seeing red and then rest for like 3 minutes, like sometimes even longer than that, because the whole goal is to go, full capacity. And if you're not resting very long, then you're not going to be able to go there. And you only need to do like 2, 3, 4 rounds of this. It really doesn't have to be very much. And then the last thing I want to say is like go into this, you know, energized, meaning you're not hungry, you're not depleting yourself. The goal is to go full effort. Fuel yourself with some carbohydrates. Fuel yourself with a little bit of protein to make your muscles feel safe that you can actually show up and like give it when you're doing this. Don't go on there thinking like you need to burn 500 calories because you're just going to make that up somewhere else more likely.
I'm so glad you mentioned. I mean, let's be real. Most of my life, I've bought into all the fitness hype on workout fasted. You're going to burn more calories,
Hmm.
do the hit, do the high intensity, in between things or,
Yeah.
before, after, whatever, was like the fad of the time. And when it finally hit
Yeah.
me after looking at all the research that fitness doesn't really make a difference when it comes, to the big
Yep.
picture of weight loss, I was like,
Yeah.
doing
You're
this
like,
all
what have I been doing? Yeah. It
right.
takes like, I wish I could remember the exact words, maybe the exact numbers. Maybe you do, but it was like you have to do some sort of slow to medium intensity cardio for 3 hours a day for something like 2 months to lose like a pound, something crazy. It was crazy enough to be like, why would I do that?
Exactly, which brings me back to the one thing you said, like right at the beginning of this portion. It was like you got to have something that you find fun, because
Hmm.
once you realize that beating yourself up and all of that makes you hate it isn't actually going to move the needle. It's like I don't
Yeah.
know, I felt like it was like, oh,
Yeah, like it's kind of like I don't have to do that to myself anymore. Thank you.
oh, like so all those like Shanti insanity workouts back, a decade plus ago. Really? I mean, Sean, you're cool. Don't, no disrespect. It was
Right.
for entertaining. It was entertaining. But
Yes.
yeah, I look at it and I go, okay. So sprinting.
Hmm.
I like that you mentioned that, because I think for a lot of people, they're like, when they hear sprint, they think they have to run first. And I'm glad you mentioned like skier,
Hmm.
you mentioned like row, you mentioned like they could do other things. Prowlers. I don't know how many people probably know what a
Yeah.
prowler is. Here, I'm gonna let you
Oh
explain
yeah.
it. So
Okay.
tell
I
folks what a
actually just
prowler
did
is.
it last night. Yeah, so
Oh,
Prowler's a
yeah.
sled. And you might have seen it if you've seen it anywhere. You'll sometimes see like football players doing some variation of it, but it's a metal sled. It's usually got two kind of ski tracks on it, some handles, and you'll put weights on the middle. It's usually done on turf. And so it's really simple. Like it makes a lot of sense to do it. You just grab the handles and then you dig your feet in the ground and you go as fast as you can. You can load it up really heavy and it turns into like a strength kind of output or strength performance thing. Or when you keep it on the lighter side, you can go really fast and like all of a sudden you do the first one, you're like, this is fine. And then you do the second one, you're like, oh dear God. It's really fun. I actually really like it. Yeah. It's like it's one of those things where it feels so useful. Like you just get so much out of it in a really short amount of time. It's very satisfying.
I'm telling you. And it's useful for life. And I think that's the big thing that, like you were mentioning before, a lot of the lifts that we do with barbell, like squats, you squat down to get things, you lift things up. Or the
Hmm.
overhead press, back to putting the suitcase up, or boxes or whatnot, this,
Hmm.
in that department. And prowler and push. I think we do a lot of pull motions in
Hmm.
workouts, but I think we tend to forget about push unless you're a dude that really wants, the
Big
chest.
old bench. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Hmm.
bench. The ladies, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
We don't really go to the gym like, how can I develop my pecs? That's usually not a question that I get asked. Yeah.
yeah, no, no, most guys are gonna go for that department.
Yeah.
But the push, and the probably that's where I'm just getting, for a lot of us ladies, it could be really good for pushing things, in life, because there may be some things that we need to push, like a dresser or something. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, so many times I lived on my own for a lot of wonderful years, and I just would get the itch to rearrange my all my furniture, and I would be able to do it. That was very worth it, if anything. Yeah,
I think you and I would get along well, because yeah, that was my first thought. I was like, well, rearranging furniture is where
such a
that
good one. I
comes.
definitely should have died more than once trying to carry heavy stuff up my stairs.
Oh my goodness. Now, of course, all of you guys who are listening and thinking like, okay, well, I don't know if I want to go that far. Let's
Sure.
let's take it to, let's get some client stories from you. Like, what are some of the folks that you've seen come in, and let's go with like baseline. Maybe they've had a little bit of fitness experience, but really not,
Hmm.
day in, day out. They weren't gym rats. Maybe they were athletes in high
Yeah.
school, didn't take it into college. What kind of transformations have you seen for folks? Like whether it's their strength, whether it's different things, like what have you seen folks be able to do at
Hmm.
their ages? I would love to hear a couple stories.
Yeah. A lot of times, or so I have one type of client that comes to mind is they've heard that they need to get strong. Like they've listened to a podcast like this and they're like, okay, I'm hearing enough information where I am learning that I need to start getting strong. And they'll often start on their own where they'll go to a gym, they'll read like starting strength, they'll listen to podcasts, they'll, go on all the YouTubes and try to figure these things out for themselves. And when they sign up with me as a client, I'll look at their lifts, and sometimes their lifts are really good. They've done a really good job self-teaching. And then sometimes their lifts are not very good and they're going too hard, too heavy, too often, and they're hurt and they're injured. And that's when they're like, okay, I need some help through this. And the the transformation that comes there is letting them know that this shouldn't feel like a max effort all the time. And adding more weight to the bar is not, that does not equal success right now. Success equals you moving well, meaning we're doing the full movement, we're squatting to depth, we're picking up the barbell and deadlift with an extended back, and we're able to repeat that and recover from it.
Mhm.
So they learn how to load differently and how to recover differently. That's a really interesting progression because more doesn't always equal better. Like good form equals better, ability to recover equals better. And so it's about getting true to the movement. And that's an interesting one because that it's really they think they if they take weight off the bar that they've failed in some way. And that's a really tough learning because when we first get into this, it's really fun because we're really able to add weight to the bar pretty easily. But
Mhm.
that, depending on the person, that lasts for like 3 months, 6 months if you're more young and male. And so then we just have this, oh my God, if I take weight off the bar, it means I'm weak and I'm a failure. But if you're going to lift forever, you really need to learn that it's about the quality of the movement, still getting into the hard, out of the hard but doable scale, but no, being able to have enough left in the tank that you can come back 2 days later and work out again. So that's an interesting transformation that I see from people who have started to dabble, but have gotten into a bad place with it.
Yeah.
And then we have people who um this has come up a few times where I'll be coaching someone and then their wife gets curious. They're like, "Well, now I've heard that I also need to lift," but she's had like zero experience. And so she starts going into the gym and the husband, bless him, is trying to coach her, and that can be really challenging. I've definitely seen some successful times, but it's really hard when this is your first time in the gym and it's like usually cold and dirty because that's usually what happens in a basement gym. And then, your husband is telling you like, well, you need to go deeper. And you're like, I am going deeper. As deep as I can go. And it like turns into this like really awful experience. And so then this just happened recently, actually, is my client. He's like, so, my wife wanted to try some squats and I've tried to give her some cues, but I think it'd be better if it came from you. So he'll actually upload a video. He just did this a couple weeks in a row, uploaded a video of her squat. I gave her some cues and like instantly looks great. And that makes it her journey. It
Right.
makes it her own. She knows that, even if I say the same thing as he did, which we did, of course, that's fine. It's her own now. And like the weight's her own, like her movement is her own. It doesn't have to look like his. And what I think what really happens there is you get little corrections in your squat. This is where I see it the most because that's really a tough one where if you're really undertrained, it's hard to squat to depth with a bar on your back, like especially with ladies, we'll overextend our back and our knees will cave in. But just with a few little corrections, you can start squatting to depth. And then you can feel confident enough to be like, well, the only thing I need to do differently now is add more weight. And so what happens there is they start to learn like, oh, it's really fun to do this well. You can really get into knowing or like learning what good form is. And so you have that kind of mental challenge that you're working on. And then the physical challenge of learning how your body feels when it's working hard. And so then women are just like, well, I want to be able to lift this weight and I'm thinking about competing. That doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes they just learn this part of themselves that they're just like, oh, this is what it's like when I'm strong. I want more of that. It's
Hmm.
really neat. And it doesn't mean that they're having to do bicep curls and heavy squats. It's their own journey. And I think that's a cool thing about lifting is it really does become yours.
I think that's beautiful because so many women have been damaged around fitness and weight loss and body image. And, I would
Hmm
be lying if I said I didn't get into weightlifting because I was like, I don't have the body I want. I need to
hmm
do things.
Sure.
And I'd also be lying to say, like if I hadn't struggled all these different years of doing different things, following the fads, and I'm sure a lot of people listening right now are like, yeah, I've followed the fads of like the Jane Fonda style workouts, the like HIIT workouts and
hmm
insanity workouts. And, I was just killing my body, but not having a joy for it. And really being,
Yeah.
well, like you said, to look at that, like, my body can do really cool things. Look how strong I am.
hmm
Put aside all the like weight issue kind of thought process, all that. I'm guessing you've seen that in yourself, and I'm guessing you've seen
hmm
that with a lot of clients where all of a sudden that shift happens where
hmm
weight doesn't really matter anymore. It's like, I can do cool things. I can live.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh, this is neat because now I'm learning how to eat so I feel good when I train. And that doesn't mean you need to gain a lot of weight when you lift weights. It just means you need to be fueled enough to do what you want to accomplish. And it stops becoming a punishment. Workout stops becoming, well, I need to dig myself out of this caloric surplus. It's something different. It's about growth. And that's a much different mindset. Um, and there are still for sure many times where I've struggled with how I'm looking, of course, where it's just like, man, I do not, I'll film myself squatting and deadlifting. And I'm like, where is that muffin top coming from? Excuse me. You kind of learn, like, well, you know what? This is what your body looks like when you put a belt on and you brace. That's what it looks like. And that's okay. In fact, it's good to have a little bit of fluff because you recover really well. And our bodies really, especially women, we don't do very well when we're very low body fat. It's actually a really tough place to be. We get more anxious. We don't sleep very well. Our hormones get all messy. And so you start to learn, and this took me a long time, but I learned what my body looks like when I'm happy and when it's happy. And now that's where I like to be. And for me, it's not super lean, it's not super shredded. I know what it takes to get there, but I don't like staying there. That's not me being happy. When my body's happy, when I'm happy, that means I'm able to eat really tasty meals. I'm able to train really well. I feel energized. And I still have like a little bit of a belly. Not that much. I still have to go through the day and be like, that's not a six pack. And then I have to be like, Nikki, do you really want to live today like you have a six pack? I don't. So it's like learning how you feel to be happy. And that takes a really long time because that's working on relationship with food, relationship with what you look like, with what you feel like, how you sleep, how you train. And then what does your body look like when all those needs are met? And you start to make that your ideal. It's much different than like going backwards of like, oh, I saw this girl on Instagram. What do I have to do to look like that? Which is impossible because that's her body.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. And like sadly, I'd be lying too again if I said that I haven't like looked at certain bodies and been like, I want that. And then,
hmm
disappointed myself time and time again because one, yeah, I too do not feel great when I get lean. Now, have I ever had a six
hmm
pack? No. Why? Because I like food.
Yeah,
And I
food's
don't like
wonderful. It's a
I
really
don't
fun part of the day.
I don't like being snippy. And what I found is like when I actually tried to do fitness training, to do a fitness comp, like I literally lost my crap. I could not do it because I was like, oh my God,
So hard.
and kudos to people that do it. But here's the thing, and I think this is the biggest
Yeah.
takeaway that we were saying is finding like the space in which you feel good at because a lot of these folks who are at their six
hmm
pack abs and super ripped out, I mean, you got to live a certain way to maintain
It's
that.
not
And I think,
sustainable.
yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that that is is like sacrificing a lot of it to stay
hmm
low.
hmm Yeah.
Because social media has us thinking, well, we can take semaglutides or tirzepatides and we can take other peptides and stay that way. But I don't know about you, but I've not seen that to be sustainable for many people if they want their sanity and to sleep.
Yeah, and I have concerns over what that does to muscle mass. Like
Hmm.
my, I that's maintaining and having muscle is very important to me. So I'm just like when anything ever starts to put that at risk, I'm like, nah, I don't think I trust it. And I just don't know yet. It seems like we need more time with that one. Yeah.
Ultimately, yes, more time and whoever's recommending it to folks. And if we are doing it with weightlifting, I mean, we got to be so on point with like
Mm-hmm.
and the protein powders and the blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
once again maintenance. It's a lot of maintenance to maintain that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I want
Yeah.
fitness to be fun for people. I want it to be
Same.
enjoyable so that we do it.
Yes. Yeah. The best program for you is the one that you do. Like, and if you don't like doing it, you're not going to keep doing it. So it's worth finding. That's what we really try to do for our clients is I went through a time when I was very dogmatic with the program that they had to do. I was like, well, if you're not doing this program, then you're not doing it at all, and I can't work with you. Like I have a hard time remembering that part of my life, but to be a good coach for someone, you have to be adaptable. And it still is very strength focused, but we change. Sometimes a gym is a nice change. They start going somewhere else. Sometimes we change the reps or the squat variation, the deadlift variation. We add accessories. We add or we just take a look at the expectations, but we have to be really adaptable with ourselves and know that no matter what, you keep doing it, and it's okay for one of those goals to be that you enjoy doing it, like you just said. So important.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, oh God, how many years? It took me decades to really realize that fitness was not meant to be a thing to beat my body up for, trying to compensate for
Yeah.
what I ate. It's just so, despite all my knowledge, right? It's just, and I know I'm
Yeah. Same. Same.
so
Oh, if only ourselves in our 20s would listen to this podcast.
go back. Nah, I'm happy where I'm now. I don't want to go back to 20.
Same,
Um,
right?
I love where I'm at. I love where I'm at. So, of course, I think folks are gonna be thinking like, Nikki, okay, how do I work with you? I like your thought process. I like your logic, not to be well, yes, I'm totally punning. Um,
Good.
so tell us a little bit of like what is it like to work with you? How can folks
Yeah.
connect with you there? And then, of course, we gotta talk about your podcast.
So, when you become a client at Barbell Logic, we have a really amazing team of coaches. We have about 50, 60 coaches around the world. When you go to our website, you can go through a quiz that asks you about your goals, what you like coaching style wise, and we'll show you coaches who we think you would work well with.
Mm,
Or you can sign up. We have a wonderful client experience director, and she's so good at reading a client intake form and pairing them with a coach on our team,
nice.
personality and goal wise. And that's really important to have a good fit with your coach because you are going to be talking to them sometimes more than you talk to your family. Like we do regular check-ins, which means we start with an initial phone call to or video call to learn more about you. And then we write your program. We have our own software that we use to do that. And you get your workout delivered to you on that software, which has an app interface. And you film yourself squatting, deadlifting, benching, whatever your workouts are for that day, upload it, and your coach watches it. We do a video review. So we basically watch you lift, tell you this is good, let's work on this, and then we write your next workout based on how that one went and what your goals are. So it's super tailored to you, to what equipment you have or don't have, and you get to hear what your coach is thinking, which is really fun. We used to do just text-based feedback, but now we do these on-screen video reviews, which is really neat because you can actually you have the experience of going through the lift, but then to see someone talking through what you're doing, it makes us learn really quickly. We've
Absolutely.
learned that. Um, and then we just keep modifying your program over time based on when you can train, what equipment you have, what your goals are. And it's uh it's our software is really designed to celebrate consistency more than anything. So we know how many workouts you've done. We know when you've missed a workout. We, are like, hey, where you at? What's going on? Let's change this. And we have all the PR history. So every time you do something, we keep a log of your PRs. So that's how, and we have a special offer for anybody who wants to give it a shot. You get half off your first month if you go to barbelllogic.com/healthfix. You can try it out. We have clients who have been with us since 2016. It's really fun. And we have clients who are just starting now without having ever touched a barbell. So we like to really we work with people who are like, our age range is usually like 45 to 60. We
Nice.
have some youngins in there, but this is for people who are like, you know what? I'm busy. I've got kids. I've got a job. I have so many things to do, but I also need to take care of myself. Please help me do that.
I love 45 to 60. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
I was thinking it'd be a little bit younger, but no, that's really, I'm so excited to hear that.
Yeah.
So,
It's a good age group. Like I've worked with people like young people in their 20s before. So many things work for them.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
you could kind of do anything. But yeah, if you really when we've gotten to this point in our life, and I even feel it now in my late 30s, it's just like I want to outsource this to someone who knows better than me.
Mhm.
And that's what we like to do as coaches is like, let me be your strength executive assistant. I'll tell you what to think about, what you don't need to think about. You just go in and do it, and then I'll change it for you.
I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, that's ultimately, I think, and in the point that I've gotten in my life too, I have two strength coaches because at this point I don't want to think about my workouts anymore.
Hmm.
Just don't. I want someone else to tell me what I'm doing, but I also want someone to like look at the progress or if I'm not progressing and be like, hey, this
Hmm.
is what's up, especially because I work out at home. I have a gym at home now. And I think for a lot of people that do work out at home, you need someone looking at what you're doing. Otherwise,
Yeah. Yeah. You end up doing some things that are questionable.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The last thing anybody needs is an injury.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a big deal. So tell us a little bit about your podcast, Beast Over Burden.
Oh yeah. Beast over burden. As the name hopefully conveys, is we want to be beasts in our life. We don't want to be a burden. And similarly, we want training to make us feel good, and we don't want training to be a burden. So we really, my co-host and I, Andrew Jackson, we talk about the real things that you have to think about and struggle through, and you know, goals that you might want to accomplish as you just lift forever. So, we talk about nutrition a lot. We're really into this concept of having physical freedom, which we stole from the concept of having financial freedom, which means like you can do what you want to do when you want to do it. Same thing with nutrition and same thing with being strong is like, how do you get to a point where you understand you have to say no to things, but that means you get to say yes to all the things you really want to say yes to. So that's what we talk about in Beast Over Burden. We'll geek out on equipment sometimes, but a lot of the times we talk about how do we make training sustainable and fun. Yeah,
Awesome.
so check it out. We'd love to
Awesome.
have some listeners over there.
Yeah. We will
Yeah.
put that into the podcast notes at drjkrausend.com. We'll also have the half off code, the health fix there as well. And gosh, we need to put barbell logic there as well. It's barbell dash logic, right? Did I get that? Did I goof up or is
Yes.
it
Yeah.
okay?
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, awesome. Nikki, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, and just helping folks really realize that we can do this and make it fun. It does not have to be
Hmm.
all about
Yes.
weight loss and torture. Ugh, not cool.
I am so happy that you are spreading that message. Yeah. Thank you. This is really fun.
My pleasure. Hey, fellow health junkie, thanks for listening to the Health Fix podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, please help support me to get the word out about the podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review, and just get that word out. Thanks again for listening.